Grisly crimes from past, saved by a judge's blunder. It probably qualifies as the world's easiest murder mystery. Everyone knew who killed Rose Pender in the early hours of 21st of August 1911. The suspect's name, his motive, and his murder weapon were clearly established at the trial. But because of a judicial blunder, the murderer walked free from the Court of Criminal Appeal. Officially, the case remains open. It was a seedy affair. People with wretched and depraved characters from the London underworld, thieves, pimps, and prostitutes filed into the witness box to give evidence at the Old Bailey. At the outset, no one could have imagined the case would have become an historic one, marking a watershed in British legal history. Charles Elsam, who described himself as a labourer, was brought to the dock in September 1911 for the murder of Rose Pender, his mistress. She was a prostitute, 19 years of age, and Elsam had lived on her immoral earnings. And when she eventually left him for an Italian boy, Elsam publicly threatened vengeance. A few days before the fateful night, Elsam borrowed a shilling from a friend and with it bought a long-bladed chef's knife. He told the same friend, "I'm going to do that Italian in for taking Rosie away." In the small hours of the 21st, a man on his way to work in Clerkenwell heard a girl's voice crying, "Don't, Charles, don't!" Later, a milkman found Rose's dead body in the street, blood-stained and multiple stab wounds. Police inquiry quickly revealed Elsam to be the prime suspect. Prostitute friends of the victim confirmed that for some time her ex-lover had been threatening to do Rosie in. To one witness, he had even confided, "A fortune teller told me the gallows were in my cards and she was the girl I should swing for." On the 22nd, Elsam was tracked down and arrested. He gave his name as Brown to police, but he said, "It is me you want." And a thief named Fletcher supplied damning evidence by describing how, shortly after the body was found, Elsam had come to his house in a breathless condition and confessed the murder to him. The case came to trial at Court Number 1 at Old Bailey. The curious procession of miscreants was brought into the box to give evidence. And Mr. Justice Avery, a usually meticulous judge, presided over all. In fairness to him, it should be said that he had endured a very heavy week. The court agenda was crowded, and only that morning he had summed up at the end of a wife murderer's trial. The Elsam case came after the lunch. It lasted only for one extended afternoon session. Formidable evidence was heard against the accused, the chief prosecution witness being the thief, Jack Fletcher. He lived with two ladies of the streets and testified that when Elsam arrived at his house on the murder night, he announced, "I have killed her stone dead." Fletcher asked who he had killed, and Elsam replied, "Rosie, my missus. I killed her stone dead, Jack. She drove me to it." Elsam had then produced the knife and showed it to his friend. He said he had met the girl by chance in the street and explained exactly how things happened. "I asked her to come back to me, but she said she liked her Italian boy best. Then I lost my temper, pulled out the knife, showed it to her and said, 'I'll kill you first.' She said, 'Here you are then, I don't care,' and bared her breasts. I plunged the knife in. She cried, 'Don't, Charlie, don't,' and I knew I had done the damage. So I stabbed her 8 or 9 times afterwards." Fletcher's two women had been in the house at that time, and they corroborated his account. When interviewed by the police, Fletcher himself had made further statements, filling in additional details, but in no way departing from his original story. For the defense, it was a hopeless case. The accused had no alibi, and the best that the defense counsel could do was to try and cast aspersions on the character of various witnesses. Fletcher, in particular, came in for a grilling, and emerged as a rather flash character. It was learned that he carried a police whistle in his pocket. It came in handy when danger threatened in some of his low-life locals. And it was clear that he knew the courtroom ropes. At one point, the defense counsel asked, "You are very nicely dressed. Where did you get the clothes from?" Singing outside theaters? May I suggest that it was by thieving? This is a case of murder and not felony, and I refuse to answer. I must ask you, however. Well then, I thieve for my living, and I'm proud of it. The judge began his summing up in the most impeccable way. He started by explaining that if the character of a witness was questionable, then corroboration was of vital importance. Then he made his blunder. He suggested that there was no discrepancy between the thief's first statement to the police and his evidence in the witness box. This was perfectly true. But the first statement, which had been produced at the police court trial, had never been put in evidence at the Old Baileys. Technically, it was quite improper to direct the jury that Fletcher's evidence was corroborated by his first statement. The jury had not seen the document in question. Did the jury even notice the slip? It took them less than 1 hour to bring in their verdict of guilty. Asked if the prisoner had anything to say, Elsam replied, "No, sir, I have only one judge." Mr. Justice Avery brought out the black cap, and Elsam was sentenced to death. But he never went to the gallows. His defense counsel, A.S. Kerr, was quick to pounce on the judge's error. It had come like a gift from the gods, and while his client awaited the end in the condemned cell, Kerr took the case to the Court of Criminal Appeal. This was a newly founded institution, set up in 1907 after considerable public pressure. Behind it lay a humane concern for victims of miscarried justice. The court might allow an appeal if it considered that the verdict of a jury was unreasonable, or could not be supported by the evidence, or that the judgment should be set aside on a point of law. Until the Elsam Affair, no appeal in a murder case had succeeded, but on the issue in hand, Mr. Justice Darling ruled that there was really no option. Indisputably, the Old Bailey judge has misdirected the jury by introducing a statement which was not in evidence. Darling regretted that the court had no power to order a new trial. He declared that the court could not express any view as to whether Elsam was guilty or not, but he quashed the conviction, and Elsam walked away of the appeal court a free man. There was a tremendous irony in the ruling. The court had been established to protect the innocent. A guilty man was acquitted on the first successful appeal. In the event, the court survived as a valued institution, but it was 20 years before another convicted murderer was to make a successful appeal. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and leave a comment, as it helps with YouTube algorithm to grow this channel. I regularly upload, so by subscribing, you will be notified of new materials. You will find similar contents in my other videos. Have a safe day. Signing off.